Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Vanachari Yamuna Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Yamuna Vanachari Yamuna Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Vishmahad Paramahamsa Parivakacharya Astarya Sadashri Srimad His Divine Grace Asa Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gaudi Vaishnavanda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya His Divine Grace Asa Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavandam Ki Jai Mayapurdam Ki Jai Gangamaya Ki Jai Yamunamaya Ki Jai Tulsidevi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Priyatmadanga Book Distribution Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo All glories to some of the Vedas Hare Krishna All glories to some of the Vedas Hare Krishna All glories to some of the Vedas Hare Krishna All glories to Shri Shri Gun Shri Gauranga All glories to Srila Prabhupada Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivinoda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita Adi-lila, chapter 10, text 78 and 79. Esa Esaba Mahashaka Caitanya Kripadama Prema Phala Pula Kade Yahanta Handana Esaba Mahashaka Caitanya Kripadama Prema Phala Pula Kade Yahanta Handana Esaba Mahashaka Caitanya Kripadama Prema Phala Pula Kade Yahanta Handana Esaba Mahashaka Caitanya Kripadama Prema Phala Pula Kade Yahanta Handana. Ladies. Esaba Mahashaka Caitanya Kripadama So word for word. Kandavasi Mukunda Dasa. Of the name Mukunda Das. Shri Raghunandana. Of the name Raghunandana. Narahari Dasa. Of the name Narahari Das. Chiranjeev. Of the name Chiranjeev. Sulochana. Of the name Sulochan. Esaba. All of them. Mahashaka. Great branches. Caitanya Kripadama. Of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. The reservoir of mercy. Prema. Love of God. Phala. Fruit. Phula. Flower. Kade. Does. Yahan. Anywhere. Tahan. Everywhere. Dana. Distribution. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Kandavasi Mukunda and his son Raghunandana were the 39th branch of the tree. Narahari was the 40th, Chiranjeev the 41st, and Sulochan the 42nd. They were all big branches of the all-merciful tree of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. They distributed the fruits and flowers of love of Godhead anywhere and everywhere. Please repeat. Sri Kandavasi Mukunda and his son Raghunandana were the 39th branch of the tree. Narahari was the 40th. Chiranjeev the 41st. And Sulochan the 42nd. They were all big branches of the all-merciful tree of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. They distributed the fruits and flowers of love of Godhead anywhere and everywhere. Purport. Sri Mukunda Das was the son of Narayan Das and eldest brother of Narahari Sarakara. His second brother's name was Madhava Das, and his son was named Raghunandana Das. Descendants of Raghunandana Das still live 4 miles west of Katwa in the village named Shrikanda, where Raghunandana Das used to live. Raghunandana had one son named Kanai, who had 2 sons, Madana Roy, who was a disciple of Narahari Thakur, and Vamsi Vedant. It is estimated that at least 400 men descended in this dynasty. All their names are recorded in a village known as Shrikanda. In the Gaura Ganadesh Dipika, it is stated that the gopi whose name was Vrindadevi became Mukundadas, lived in Shrikanda village and was very dear to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. His wonderful devotion and love for Krishna are described in the Adi-lila, chapter 15. It is stated in the Bhakti Ratnakara, chapter 8, that Raghunandana used to serve a deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Narahari Das Sadakara was a very famous devotee. Lochan Das Thakur, the celebrated author of Chaitanya Mangal, was his disciple. In Chaitanya Mangal, it is stated that Sri Gadadhar Das and Narahari Sadakara were extremely dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But there is no specific statement regarding the inhabitants of the village of Shrikanda. Chiranjeev and Sulochan were both residents of Shrikanda, where their descendants are still living. Of Chiranjeev's 2 sons, the elder, Ramachandra Kaviraj, was a disciple of Srinivasacharya and an intimate associate of Narottam Das Thakur. The younger son was Govindadas Kaviraj, the famous Vaishnava poet. Chiranjeev's wife was Sunanda, and his father-in-law was Damodar Sen Kaviraj. Chiranjeev previously lived on the bank of the Ganges River in the village of Kumara Nagara. Gaura Ganadesh Dipika, verses 187 and 207, states that he was formerly Chandrika in Vrindavan. So we'll just read a few more verses. Text 80. Satyaraj, Ramananda, Yadunath, Purushottam, Shankara, and Vijayananda all belonged to the 20th branch. They were inhabitants of the village known as Kulinagram. Text 81. All the inhabitants of Kulinagram village, headed by Vaninath Vasu, were servants of Lord Chaitanya, who was their only life and wealth. Text 82. The Lord said, not to speak of others, even a dog in the village of Kulinagram is my dear friend. Text 83. No one can speak about the fortunate position of Kulinagram. It is so sublime that even sweepers who tend their hogs there also chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Text 84. On the western side were the 43rd, 44th and 45th branches, Sri Sanatan, Sri Rupa and Anupam. They were the best of all. So it's a very long purport, so maybe we can leave that verse for the next week. Om Gyana Chamrandasya Gyanam Jana Salakaya Chakshu Umalatam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna. So, of our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, and pray for their blessings so that we may say something significant about these wonderful, glorious pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his very dear and powerful associates. So it's giving wonderful description of so many very elevated souls, and it states here that in this verse on the board that they were all big branches of the all-merciful tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was like the trunk of the tree. This Sankirtan tree, this tree of distributing pure love of Krishna, and all these wonderful associates, they were like branches and sub-branches, and some of them were more significant and powerful than others. So here it's talking about these personalities were very, very significant, big branches of the all-merciful tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And at the end of the verse it states, they distributed their fruits, the fruits and flowers of love of Godhead anywhere and everywhere. So all the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they had this same mood of adaya, mercy, compassion upon the fallen conditioned souls. Just as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the external reason he appeared was to distribute pure love of God in the most fallen age of Kali, even to the most fallen. So similarly, all his associates had this mood of spreading the Sankirtan mission. And we see that all the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates were simply spreading the Sankirtan movement through chanting, dancing, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, dancing in ecstasy, taking prasadam, having so many wonderful festivals, preaching Krishna consciousness. So just as that was their business 500 years ago, similarly in this modern ISKCON movement we're carrying on this adaya, merciful movement of spreading this Krishna consciousness far and wide. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Yadi Deka Tadi Kahat Krishna Upadesh. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, should instruct them about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way become a spiritual master and liberate everyone in the land. So these wonderful associates of the Lord, they directly come with the Lord from the spiritual world, and they're coming from Goloka Vrindavan. In Goloka Vrindavan they have their pastimes with Radha and Krishna. So in Goloka Vrindavan the pastimes with Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu simultaneously going on. So there's different descriptions. Here it describes one of the devotees, Mukunda Das, who was a gopi, whose name was Vrindadevi. So many places in the Caitanya Caritamrita describes different associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and describes their name from the pastimes of Krishna. So they're eternally liberated souls, and wherever the Lord goes, even throughout the material worlds, in many incarnations the Lord takes his eternal servants, associates, confidential companions. And there's that verse in the 11th canto, Krishnavanam Trisa Krishnam Sangopangasha Pasadam Yagnai Sankirtan Praya Yajanti Hisha Medasha. That in this age of Kali, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he incarnates with a golden complexion, but he's non-different from Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. That Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha and Krishna. And he's always surrounded by his eternal associates, servants, weapons and confidential companions. So the whole business of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his the members of his Sankirtan party was to break open the storehouse of love of Godhead and spread bhakti, devotion to Krishna, Krishna Prem, to anyone and everyone. So this was the external reason Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, his internal reason or reasons is that he wanted to experience the love that Radharani had for Krishna. So the Caitanya Caritamrita is considered the postgraduate study. The Bhagavad Gita is the basic knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Sorry, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study, and the Caitanya Caritamrita is considered the tertiary study. Just like in your education system, you have primary education, secondary education, and university degrees. So the Caitanya Caritamrita is considered to be like the university degree of Krishna consciousness. So it's very elevated subject matter, but very purifying and very powerful and very attractive pastimes and philosophy described throughout the Caitanya Caritamrita. So, and we can read so many of Srila Prabhupada's purports in the Caitanya Caritamrita, so much strong preaching Krishna consciousness, preaching the ultimate goal of life, Prema Mahata Mahan, that the fifth goal of life is this Krishna Prem, pure love for Krishna. Most people in the material world, they take the goal of life to be economic development, artha, dharma, performing religious activities, artha for economic development, karma for achieving sense gratification in so many ways, and ultimately when they're frustrated with the material world, moksha. They want liberation. But generally their desire for liberation is they want to merge with the oneness of God. But this is considered, for a devotee, is considered hellish. Hellish mentality, to have this mentality of wanting to merge with God. The eternal position of the living entity is not that he's one with God, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Achincha Beda Abeda Tattva, that simultaneously the living entity is one with but different from God, from Krishna. One with in the sense that we have the same qualities, but different in the sense that God is great and the living entity is small. Vibhu, the Lord is supremely great, and Anu, the living entity, is minutely infinitesimal. So the Lord and his associates, they come again and again throughout the different millenniums, and it's said that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they appear once in a day of Lord Brahma, or once in 1,000 times the cycles of the 4 yugas put together. So Lord Krishna also comes once in a day of Lord Brahma, and said that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears just after Lord Krishna in this, after 1,000 cycles of the yugas. So it's very rare that Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya incarnate. So we're so fortunate, we cannot estimate our fortune in being here at this particular time when the Lord has just performed his pastimes 500 years ago. It's a very insignificant period of time. And even Lord Krishna just 5,000 years ago. And in eternity, it's just a drop of water in the ocean. So, and Srila Prabhupada just here like 40, 50 years ago. And here we are in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan pastimes, continuing on, predicted to go for the next 10,000 years and save the world in its darkest hour. So people do not know, people in general, especially in this age of Kali, do not understand what the goal of life is, who they are, where they're going to, what's their relationship with God, what's beyond this life. the Bhagavatam describes na te vidu svatam gadhim hi vishnum durasya ye bihi attamanina andaya tandai upanimanas tepisi tantram uridam nibadha. Persons are strongly trapped by this consciousness of materialistic sense enjoyment, materialistic life, do not know that the goal of life is to become Krishna conscious and go back home, back to the spiritual world. And therefore the so-called leaders, blind leaders, they simply lead their blind followers into the ditch of ignorance. So there's one, that's one of the, of course this age of Kali is an ocean of faults. The Bhagavatam also in the 12th canto describes this, Kale doshe nete rajan, that it's an ocean of bad qualities, an ocean of faults. But Asti hekan mahadgana, there's one great quality, simply by chanting Kirtana Deva Krishna Shah, simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Mukta Sangha Param Vijit. One can be liberated from all misfortune and be promoted to the topmost platform of Krishna consciousness and ultimately going back home, back to Godhead. So, na te vidu svatam gatim hi Vishnu, and people do not know this ultimate goal of life. And therefore one of the greatest anomalies of Kali Yuga is that many people are taking the position of leaders, either material leaders or spiritual leaders, but they do not know who they are or what is the goal of life. You know, you practically meet any politician or prime minister or president or queen or king or spiritual leader, they don't have practically any idea that they're not this body. They're an eternal spirit soul, that they have an eternal relationship with Krishna, that they do not know that sense gratification is not the goal of life. They do not know where they are going to beyond this life. And another shortcoming of Kali Yuga is that people do not believe, like Srila Prabhupada said, people do not believe in the next life. People are thinking that this spot life of 70 or 80 years is all there is, all in all, that there's nothing beyond this life. Therefore they're, working for so many temporary, insignificant goals, and even those gains, the material gains, wealth, prestige, position, name, fame, adoration, they cannot take in the next life. They cannot take even a penny in the next life. They cannot take this body. We cannot take this body with us. So this is the first understanding of spiritual life, that all the great teachers, whether Lord Krishna or Caitanya Mahaprabhu, teach that we are not this body. We're an eternal spirit soul. We're under so many upadhis, so many misidentifications, that I am Australian, I'm German, Chinese, black or white, I'm a young man, old man, woman, child, I'm a dog or a cat. So many misidentifications. I and mine. The Bhagavatam describes that this is our mentality in materialistic consciousness, that I am this and this is mine, everything. This is my house, my wife, my children. And it all stems from especially attachment to the opposite sex, pumsastriya mituni bhava mitam, that the basic principle of material existence is the attraction between male and female, on the basis of this misconception in which one identifies as I and mine. One becomes overly attached to wife, children, home, relatives, possessions, bank balance, etc. So people are very unfortunate in this material world, not just in Kali Yuga, but any age. People are covered by the different modes of material nature. Of course, in previous ages, people were less covered by the modes of passion and ignorance. But even in goodness, it's still not the highest platform. People in goodness, they have a sense of material happiness is in a sense of knowledge that they're more elevated than other people. But still this goodness is not, it can't necessarily give one Krishna consciousness. Of course it's considered to be like a stepping stone to be in the mode of goodness. But it doesn't mean that because people are in the mode of goodness that necessarily they're going to be Krishna conscious as well. But especially in Kali Yuga, people are mostly covered by passion and ignorance. Therefore they're very, as we see, very much addicted. And all of us can testify to this, that we've all been very much addicted before coming to Krishna consciousness to gambling, meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex. So many sinful activities which are like stumbling blocks on the path of Krishna consciousness, because they destroy the pillars of religion or the pillars of Krishna consciousness. Meat eating destroys compassion. The 4 pillars of religion are compassion, truthfulness, mercy, and what's the other one? Austerity. So meat eating destroys compassion. Intoxication destroys austerity. Gambling destroys truthfulness. And illicit sex destroys cleanliness. So practically we see that people are, all the days of their lives, they're engaging in these activities. So they're very unfortunate. But at the same time, at this particular time in Kali Yuga, and this Kali Yuga, out of thousands of Kali Yugas, people are actually very fortunate because they have the chance to come in contact with this Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and get the great fortune of hearing and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, dancing in ecstasy, just like a little while ago we were all dancing in ecstasy, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So it's very, very blissful, very purifying, very contagious. And this is the Yuga Dham. This is the method for achieving Krishna consciousness in this age of Kali. So people are actually very fortunate that they have the opportunity to come in touch with the Sankirtan movement and hear the holy names, chant the holy names, dance in ecstasy, or witness the devotees dancing in ecstasy, like when we go out in Harinam Sankirtan. People, many people become spellbound, seeing the devotees in so much ecstasy, chanting and dancing. And devotees are distributing prasadam, distributing books, in this way giving out the fortune, good fortune, in many ways. So we have to create, just as our good fortune was created by Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and their servants and associates, so we have to try and create the good fortune of others. And Srila Prabhupada, he always pushed the devotees to go out, preach Krishna consciousness. One who has life should preach Krishna consciousness. Only a dead man can't preach. So as long as we have some life and health, we should, as much as possible, preach Krishna consciousness wherever we go. Whether it's on the street, in our workplace, in our home, in the temple. So many opportunities, and there's so many people ready to hear Krishna consciousness or accept Krishna consciousness in different ways. Some people, maybe they're not ready to hear this philosophy, but they're very eager to take prasadam. So Prabhupada gave the secret weapon, right? Everyone's attracted to prasadam. We used to hand out on Harinam in Sydney, we used to make these sweet balls. Garuda would remember, we made these bliss balls, coconut honey balls, and we'd have a huge basket of these coconut honey balls, and we'd be passing them out in Harinam, and people would be like eagerly accepting these sweet balls. And sometimes that people would tell us that they'd be looking for the Harinam Sankirtan to get more of those sweet balls. So, but some people, they can't, they're not inclined to take books or accept the philosophy, but they can take prasadam, or they very much enjoy hearing the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and watching the devotees dance. So Prabhupada pushed us to distribute these books, distribute the holy name, distribute prasadam as much as possible, and this way assist Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates in breaking open this storehouse of love of Godhead and spreading this Krishna Prem far and wide. the other day I was coming home with the family. We were coming from Sydney and we stopped at Gosford and we got a motel there for the night. And in the morning, and there was some guy, when we got there, he was next to us, an older sort of guy, and he was drinking, he'd been drinking a lot of beers. All the cans were lined up and smoking a lot of cigarettes. And when I got up early in the morning to chant, he was up fairly early, but doing the same thing, drinking and smoking. And horrible smell, horrible activity. But he was very friendly, and we talked, and I was going in and out packing the car, and he kept on saying, "Oh, you're nearly there, you're nearly there." And then we had some milk sweets from Radha Gopinath in Sydney, burfis and sandesh, rasgullas. And I gave him a burfi, and he just put it straight in his mouth, huge burfi. He just knocked it down. And he said, "Oh, it tastes very nice." And then I thought, I was thinking, he seems like a poor beggar, he probably won't be able to afford a book. But I thought, I'll show him some books. So I showed him a hardback Bhagavad Gita, and he was eagerly looking at the pictures. And he said, "Oh, I used to listen to that song by George Harrison, My Sweet Lord." And he said, "Yeah, I'll take a book." And he gave a nice donation. I gave him a High Taste as well, and magazine. And he was saying, "Oh, I want to keep in touch with you guys. Give me your phone number and take mine." So we exchanged phone numbers, and you don't know this sort of person how they could take to Krishna consciousness in the future. Many of us, or many devotees we know, were in such niggardly, unfortunate situations before coming to Krishna consciousness. And then the night before that, we were staying in North Sydney. We got a North Sydney apartment. It's just up the road from the temple. And there was the manager, the owner, was a Greek man. And he was, I was saying, I used to live in the temple here in North Sydney years ago, and he was saying, one of my father's, the man who used to work for my father, his son joined the temple. His name was Sudarshan. I don't know if anyone remembers Sudarshan. He used to be on Ramai Swami's bus party. So he came from a Greek family, and when he joined the temple, his father came into the temple not long after that, drunk, with a gun. I don't ever know if there was any bullets in the gun, but I don't think I was there at the time, but I heard that the devotees, somehow they wrestled him to the ground, and they called the police and got him arrested. So this man who owned this North Shore Apartments, he knew about that story 30 years ago, and he said that this drunk man used to do building for his father. Anyway, he was very interested. "Oh, you're a Hare Krishna?" And he asked about 1,000 questions. And very intelligent questions, and he also got some milk sweets, and he also got Bhagavad Gita and a couple of other books. And he said, "No, anytime you want to come, you can come and stay here." And he said, "No, you don't have to check out by 10:30. You can stay longer if you want." And he offered to help me with bags, carry all the bags to the car. So very there's many people out there who are very fortunate and very ready for the mercy of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So somehow we have to be there and have books, prasadam available, be ready, the drop of a hat to do Harinam Sankirtan, just like I was seeing Guru Prabhu and the Three Musketeers, right? Someone coined, you three are sitting right there, the Three Musketeers. Now you're doing Harinam lately every day. It's very nice. So, and the week before that, we were in Canberra, and there was, huge protest down there at the Parliament House. It was some said there was 500,000 people, some said 1 million people there. The media said there was only 10,000. But for a few days running, we cooked prasadam and went to people were camping out at the showground there. And we cooked prasadam, and every night we had a table and we had books and prasadam, and people were so, their hearts were so melting, like an appreciation of receiving prasadam and getting books, and they were giving nice donations. And then when the big march was on, people were walking across the harbour of Canberra, across the bridge, and we did a Harinam. There was about 10 devotees came from the Wollongbar for a Harinam. And hundreds of thousands of people walking past us as we were stationed in one spot on the main road there doing Harinam. And then at the end, when we got to the end, I walked back to the city and picked up the car and drove the car right to the Parliament House. There was no restriction, you just park right there, right near the Parliament House, and park right on the grass and set up the table in the crowd. And the prasadam just went like that. We had 3 huge buckets of prasadam, khichdi, halava and lassi, and it just went very quickly. And there was no other food stalls there. And many, many books went out as well. So there's many nice situations we used to do. Like, I haven't done the big shows in Australia for a number of years, but every year we used to do the Sydney show, Melbourne show, Adelaide show, Perth show, sneaking boxes of books into the show, and hundreds of books would go out every day. So we have to try and take advantages of, masses of, where there's masses of people, masses of crowds, as much as possible, to maximise the effect of Krishna consciousness, to maximise the effect of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Because without knowledge of Krishna consciousness, without people's hearts becoming purified, people are just acting like hogs and dogs. Prabhupada would say this many times, that people are just living like hogs and dogs. The dogs, they're running on 4 feet, 4 legs, looking for food, shelter, sex, defending themselves. Modern humans, we're seeing they're doing the same activities, running on 4 wheels. Where is food, where is sex, where is shelter, like this. Same mentality, but just in a more polished way. Polished cats and dogs. Prabhupada gave them a nice title in front of cats and dogs, polished cats and dogs. Of course, we should have, we should be like in the mood of like crying for people like this, that how much they need Krishna consciousness. Like Prabhupada, when he first went to Boston, he was saying that in his prayers, that people are so proud of their civilization. They think there's nothing wrong with their civilization. They're thinking there's nothing wrong with their life. But according to Lord Rishabhdev in the 5th canto, he states, Nayam deho deha bhajamnu loke, that my dear boys, he had 100 sons he was preaching Krishna consciousness to. My dear boys, one who has received this human form of life, Nayam deho deha bhajamnu loke, kastan kaman ahate vid bhajam ye. One should not labour hard day and night like the hogs and dogs that eat stool. Tapo divyam putraka deva, tapo putra divyam. Anyone know that verse? Yena sattvam. That one should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. Yena sattvam sudyed yasman tvanantam. That by which one can attain complete satisfaction and happiness. So people are basically acting like hogs and dogs, unfortunately, but somehow by the good fortune of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, we can create their good fortune and give them the opportunity where they can become Krishna conscious in one lifetime. After millions of lifetimes, they've been misdirected, taking so many different species of life in this world. But in one short lifetime, or in one moment, Prabhupada said, in one moment you could become fully Krishna conscious, or after millions of lifetimes you may not become Krishna conscious. It's only a matter of accepting and understanding the fact that by following this process of bhakti yoga, pure devotion to Krishna, through chanting, dancing, feasting, serving, preaching, so many ways we can engage in this pure bhakti process. So one can become Krishna conscious in a moment. or at least in one lifetime. Even though we've been in this material world, Nityabhata, practically eternally, it's considered we're eternally conditioned almost. But in one short lifetime we can become fully Krishna conscious and go back home, back to the spiritual world, back to the topmost part of the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, Goloka Premadana Harinama Sankirtana, Rati Na Janmilo Kenatai. That this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's directly transported from the spiritual world, from Goloka Vrindavan. But we're so unfortunate that we do not take this chanting of Hare Krishna and this process of Krishna consciousness seriously enough. So, like, these books are very, very powerful, very important angas, limbs of the process of devotional service. Prabhupada said, my only criticism is that my devotees, my disciples, don't read these books enough. So every day we should be trying to immerse ourselves in daily readings of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Caitanya, Caritamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. These are the most important, powerful books of the Christian consciousness movement. We have to become fixed up in this knowledge, in this philosophy, and immerse ourselves in the ecstasy of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, Lord Krishna and his associates like this. And this way we can stay fixed in Krishna consciousness, stay in the fire of Krishna consciousness. Never give up Krishna consciousness. We see devotees here, been devotees 40, 50 years. Vasishrestha Prabhu, Yadavendra Prabhu, they've been practicing for half a century, 50 years. It's a long time. They've never given up. They're just as enthusiastic as they were the day they joined. Guru Prabhu, he's been cooking feasts for hundreds of people for nearly 50 years. He's still going. Krishna Kirtan Prabhu, practicing over 40 years, still here every day. Shastra Prabhu. So we should follow in the footsteps of these great devotees. Mahajanoyena Katasa Panta. We have to follow in the footsteps. We can't imitate these great devotees, but follow in their footsteps. See how they're fully engaged in Krishna consciousness and try to imbibe their enthusiasm, their devotion, their dedication. So we'll finish there. Does anyone have any comments? Or we have a microphone here, Yadavendra, just in front. Yeah.
I was on Sankirtan in Coolangatta the other day, and there's a real estate place called PDR, and then the receptionist said, her name is Estelle, and she's just about ready to jump out of the office when the next time the Sankirtan party comes. So if you give her a little push, she'll actually jump. And also she said also one guy called Guy, he is also prepared to do that. And she was not joking. She's very serious about it. So that's the first point. Second point, could you just please repeat the correspondence between the regulative principles and what destroys? Because you mentioned it was a little fast.
So Prabhupada said that so meditating destroys compassion, intoxication destroys austerity, illicit sex destroys cleanliness, and gambling destroys truthfulness. These are the four pillars or legs of religion. I have a question by Vasishrestha Prabhu out the back.
Hare Krishna. Actually, it's not a question, it's just got some additions, maybe spiritual nugget, if I'm allowed to share it with the devotees, because I did look up this chapter as a standby in case you didn't come. So, Srila Prabhupada refers to Lord Chaitanya in the 15th chapter of the Adi-lila, talking about these devotees. It was a very nice chapter, and it's relevant to what you're saying about festivals, how we like to celebrate festivals. So in this chapter, Lord Chaitanya, I think he just finished his tour around India, and he'd just gone back to Jagannath Puri, and all the devotees came to see him, and those devotees, as you mentioned, Siddhyasthi, Mano, Mukunda, Raghunath and Naraharidas, but Lord Chaitanya was very enthusiastic, so he immersed himself in spiritual pastimes every time there was a festival. So this particular occasion, it was Janmashtami, it was Krishna's appearance day, and they all got excited, so Lord Chaitanya dressed himself as a cowherd boy, and all the other associates dressed themselves appropriately, and they all grabbed pots of yogurt and pots of water and pots of butter, and they went to the festival grounds, and they said that they distributed them profusely, so they're all covered in it with turmeric water, having sort of these great pastimes. And then Advaita Acharya came up to Lord Chaitanya, and he said, "Don't mind, don't get angry, but this is the truth. I want to know if you're really a cowherd boy. If you are a cowherd boy, I'd like you to see to twirl this rod." Because they also took some rods with them. The cowherd boys, they always, even the cowherd boys here, like Patna Lunch, and they always carry a stick and they just have the bull stop like that. So they had these sticks, right? So Lord Chaitanya grabbed this huge rod and he started twirling it. He was twirling it up and down, throwing it up in the air. And Lord Nityananda saw that and he joined him. So they were both twirling these rods like fire sticks. You see how they, twirl these rods like fire sticks. They were just going incredibly fast and everybody was just completely astonished. Then finally, Lord Chaitanya got down on the ground and caught it with his feet. And Lord Nityananda couldn't do that. So that was that festival. But it described that they celebrate a lot of other festivals, and it always immersed himself in the pastime. So sort of festivals is a really important part of the ecstasy which we're trying to emulate. Got more stories.
Thank you very much, Nectar. That was great. Yeah, well, Srila Prabhupada said that the festivals are the mother of devotion. They're wonderful occasions to bring out much more devotion, because we're really just focusing on immersing ourselves in hearing the Lord's pastimes and glorifying the Lord on His appearance days. And amongst, hundreds or maybe thousands of devotees, huge kirtan, huge feasts, so many wonderful festivities. So wonderful opportunities, like Gorpanim, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance is coming very soon. Which date is it? 18th. So this is, one of the major festivals of the year. So everyone should, as much as possible, fully immerse yourself 24/7. Just dedicate, your whole time to glorifying the Lord and trying to do some service in assisting in the festivities. Yes, you have a question?
Hi, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for this wonderful reminder that we never know who's ready to hear the message. Just wanted to ask, because you're seem very successful in handing out books and breaking through that line, just if you had any key questions or strategies as to preach to these people on the street.
Well, main thing is you have to be practicing yourself. No, what did they say? Action speaks louder than words. You may even know the philosophy very well, but if you're not practicing yourself, how much effect is it going to have on people? So you have to be. And Sanatana Goswami said to Haridas Thakur that some people, they preach very nicely, but they do not act very nicely. Some people act very nicely, but they're not able to preach very nicely Christian consciousness. He said that you're the spiritual master of the entire world, because you not only preach very nicely the philosophy of Christian consciousness, but you act very nicely in your own dealings. So we have to, practice ourselves, and we have to be enthusiastic. We have to have that mood of compassion, seeing all other living entities as our brothers and sisters, as Krishna's parts and parcels, and realize how much they're suffering without Christian consciousness. So that's why it's good to go out on the street, because if you just stay on the farm, it's very nice being on the farm here all the time. It's like the spiritual world, But if we don't go out and preach, you can almost forget that it's Kali Yuga just out there, just down in Murwillumbah or in Tweed Heads or Gold Coast. And when you go out, you see how much people are really suffering and how much they're caught up in sinful activities. So it's like a reminder how much people need Krishna consciousness if you can go out with the Harinam Sankirtan party and go out distributing books. So, and just, be enthusiastic, be determined, be confident, be convinced that you've got something that they really need, that is beneficial for all, not only all the humans, but all the animals, all living entities can benefit by the Sankirtan movement, by the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So there's pastime you can read in the Caitanya and Caritamrita, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is chanting and dancing in the Jharkhand forest. And there's a picture and it shows the lions, the tigers, the birds, the snakes, they're all dancing, and the elephants, they're all chanting and dancing. So even these lower creatures can experience love for Krishna. Yeah, Krishna. Yeah. Is that okay? Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi.